Well, hey, folks, and welcome to Security Awareness Training, where I promised that Mike Hamilton would dress up, and he didn't. Mike doesn't like Hollow. Oh, there you go. Now Mike is Tom Cruise. Well done. Thank you. All right, so welcome to Security Awareness Training. In case you don't recognize the hair and this is my costume from last year when I was Fred from Scooby-Doo. And that is not the most important thing about Security Awareness Training right before Halloween. Instead, what you need to know is that you're here for Security Awareness Training. Don't click on scary links. We'll see how many cliched Halloween things Mike can put in today's training. So we started this a few years ago. And we said, so the backstory is we had a bunch of customers who, you remember the pandemic happened, and we had a bunch of customers who were like, I can't get to my yearly training. I can't, do all this. And we just said, you know what, we're just going to start doing every other Friday security awareness training, whoever wants to come. And we thought we'd get 5-10 people per training. And we've had thousands of people now go through this with some really good things that have happened. An accountant didn't wire away $300,000. There's a university where they had somebody. Well, Mike will tell you about this later, but somebody dropped USB sticks in the bathroom, and they knew, hey, don't put that in the computer. And all sorts of good things. So thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And a really important thing about being here is there's a chat on the right. Go in the chat and say hi. Let us know where you're joining from. We'd love to know. And let me know in that what you're going to be for Halloween. All right. So being here, you're doing something good for the world. Some of you are getting credit for being here. Somebody said, hey, you have to be here. And there's a survey at the end. So stay through the end. Take the survey. One of the reasons to take the survey is for everybody who takes the survey, we donate money to charity, an IT charity, not a Halloween charity. Mike, next slide.
Slide, go.
Come on, slide.
There we go. There we go.
There you go. Who are we? So Critical Insight provides cybersecurity as a service. That means we help organizations prepare for a cyber attack, detect one quickly, and respond decisively. And so that is who we are as an organization. We work with all sorts of organizations from cities, counties, schools, hospitals, long-term care facilities, manufacturing organizations, and on and on and on. All right, next slide. Mike, who is presenting today? Well, I'm the guy on the right. That's me with my normal hair, not my Halloween hair. I am the event host, and I run marketing, and I actually do some free seminars for seniors on what to click and what not to click, and what to believe and what not to believe. Mike Hamilton is one of the founders of the company. He is the former CISO, which means head of cybersecurity for the city of Seattle. And every week I take out that he is a punk drummer, and every week he puts it back in. It's very annoying, and someday I wish he would stop. Mike, next slide. And this is where I hand it over to Mike. All right, Mike. So remember, as many Halloween cliches as you can put in, please start with the spooky presentation.
Okay, it's going to be scary. I did a really scary one yesterday at a conference in Boise. I even scared myself. But why are you here? Well, maybe you're here because the information that you have on your network and on your computers is something that will cost you money if you lose it. Personally identifiable information, trade secrets, things like that, information about your customers. You don't want to lose that. Maybe you're here because you're in the public sector and the services that you hold up do transportation management and water purification and waste treatment and things that keep us alive. Hey, thanks for being here. Maybe it's just because this is a requirement. Somebody said, hey, go take this training. It's okay to watch. Maybe you're just bored and want something to do at lunchtime. We don't care. Thank you for being here. What do we want you to take away? The internet is a nasty place and getting nastier every day. The internet that you interact with wants to sell to you, steal from you, and manipulate your opinion. And lately, it's gotten really good at doing that last one. And as we get closer to an election, it's going to get even better at it. Your passwords, your authentication credentials are under attack. We're going to do a deep dive into that. We're going to look at a lot of bait. And this bait is coming from every direction. It's your email, it's social media, it's text messages, it's phone calls. We'll hit on all that. And now it's not just shotgun blast out over the internet, spray and pray. Now it's targeted. They're going to go to LinkedIn and they're going to find out who can move money in your organization, who can authorize the movement of money in your organization, et cetera, et cetera. So buckle up, because this is not your grandpa's internet. All right. Let's ground ourselves in those business outcomes that we're trying to avoid. Because when everybody's running around saying cyber, 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 first of all, that's a really dumb word. We're stuck with it. But it kind of launders out what we're really trying to do here. We're trying to avoid these 5 things. Number 1, unauthorized disclosure of protected records. Why? Cost money. About $200 a record to clean up. You have 1 million records in a database. You have potential liability of $200 million. If that's at medium risk, that's a liability potential of $100 million. Can I have $50,000 to spend on controls to cut that risk in half again? I get $75 million of risk reduction for an outlay of $50,000. That's the way to have the conversation. Scary Russian cyber buffer overflow SQL injection coming after us is not the way to have the conversation. Theft through business email compromise that we'll talk about. This is a big problem. Extortion through ransomware, denial of service, holding your records hostage. The latest thing that we saw was an extortion demand of $175 million. These numbers are going up, up, up. Or your network can be used to attack your customers, right? The third party open window. You don't want that to happen, and you don't want to just get knocked down for the sake of getting knocked down. There's 2 wars and maybe a third starting, and it's starting to bleed over to all of us. So pay attention. It's getting weird out there. A little vocabulary, because we have really bad secret handshake language. Ransomware, what is it? It starts like everything else starts. You get a little piece of unwanted software on a computer. Now, malware can be rigged to do a lot of things. It can surveil your keystrokes so that it can get your bank login information. It can search around for records to steal and extort you for those records. It can be a crypto miner, and I'll explain that. It can do a lot of things. Well, here's what ransomware does. It provides interactive access for someone, probably on the other side of the world, to come and go in your network as they please. They're going to look around. They're going to find your backups. They're going to find your critical servers. They're going to find your records. They'll probably jimmy your records out to hold those in abeyance just in case you don't want to pay. And then they're going to encrypt everything in your network. The extortion demand will follow. It'll come out of a printer. It'll come as a phone call. They'll get you through some out-of-band means, and they will extort you. This is not pretty, and it happens with alarming frequency. That's ransomware. Business email compromise has a few flavors. Maybe I just send you an invoice and you just pay it. A lot of accounts payable has a threshold where, if it's under a certain amount, they're just going to pay it and not question it. Well, that's fairly successful. Kind of in the middle, the CEO will send something like a message that says, I'm at a conference and I want to buy gift cards for our customers. Okay, recognize that tactic. On the high end, here's how it works. And I'm going to give you an example of how this works. There is a place called Mary's Place. It's a homeless shelter for women and children. The city of Seattle supports Mary's Place with a subsidy. The email system at Mary's Place was compromised. And so someone was in there and was able to read all the email and find out the city of Seattle regularly sends funds over to Mary's Place. Somebody in that email system sent a piece of email to the city of Seattle, which came from Mary's Place, and it said, here's our new bank account. Please start depositing in this account. And the city of Seattle and Mary's Place did not find out till $800,000 later. That's business email compromise. It is alarming, it is frequent, and it costs a lot of money. Billions of dollars a year are lost this way. Okay, here's a quick example. Business email compromise. This is an email message that came to me from Garrett Silver, our CEO, whose email address is not chief_exec.officer1@aol.com. And I know that because Fred there from the Scooby-Doo, you darn kids, is the last remaining AOL user. Now, yeah, there's a little bit of grammatical difficulty with this, but recognize the tactic. I suggest an Amazon gift card coupled with a personal note, blah, blah, blah. So if you get something like this, you have this cognitive bias, this authority bias, where if it comes from somebody who has authority or in power, you're really willing to believe it. And maybe you won't look at that return address and say, oh, that's not the address. Or maybe you won't look at the banner that says, this came from outside the organization. But remember the tactic. When you get asked for gift cards, that's a thing. Don't bite on it. Okay, crypto mining. Here's how this works. You get a little piece of unwanted software on a computer, and this time what it does is it goes to work trying to solve a cryptographic algorithm. And what it does, it mints a coin, and the miner is paid for that coin. Now, Bitcoin is at an all-time high right now. I think it's at $38,000 per Bitcoin or something like that. So this is going to be real popular. People are going to be trying to do this. And if you could go to a place where power is cheap, you just rack up computers, and maybe in Wenatchee, Washington, where all the power comes from falling water, and just go to work. This uses an enormous amount of power. Or you can use compromised computers all over the world to do this for you, pay for no power, and just get paid for all the coins that you mine. So this kind of comes and goes with the value of Bitcoin. And since it's at a real high right now, this is more of a problem. Okie doke. How does this stuff start? All right, we're going to leave out the part about, well, you clicked on an attachment that was booby trapped, because for the most part, those are being laundered out of email pretty well. They're still there, but not as much as before. However, vulnerability is being exploited. Let me give you an example of a vulnerability. A long time ago, a program called SendMail, the original mail transport agent. Not what you type the email into, but when you hit send, it's where it hands off the message. That mail transport agent, MTA, will then find the destination to go to and make that delivery. Okay, so SendMail was one of the first MTAs. A guy named Eric Ullman wrote SendMail, and he's writing this program, and he says, now I need a variable for sender address. Let's see, sender address will never be more than 255 characters, so I'm going to generate a 255 byte variable for that. What happens at character 256 or 517 or 722? You've overflowed the buffer for that particular variable because it wasn't bounded properly. This happens a lot. That's called a buffer overflow. And if you do it just right, get that offset just right, you can plug your choice of executable code into the running stack of the computer. You now own that computer. This happens with alarming frequency, and lately this has become more of a preferred tactic. So when they say Juniper firewalls have a vulnerability, it needs to be patched right away. Cisco firewalls recently went bad. VMware right now went bad. The XM mail transport agent went bad. These things keep happening over and over, and the bad guys know this. And so as soon as one of these is announced, they go to work reverse engineering the patch, scanning the internet for vulnerable servers so that they can take them over as quickly as possible. This is happening really, really rapidly now. They've really tooled this up. So how do we avoid this? Okay, you got to patch your stuff. So just if you're a home user and you have an iPhone and you have a computer at home, Microsoft's going to do this for you. The patches will come down. I just rebooted both the computers on my desk because the little orange dot was down in the bottom right of the tray. And if you see a little orange dot in the bottom right of the tray, as soon as we're done here, you need to reboot your computer.
I thought
Don't
it was
worry.
candy corn.
It was candy corn that means reboot. I mean, those two things can be same. So your iPhone will absolutely get nasty with you. It will tell you, I want you to reboot. I want you to, okay, go ahead, go to bed. When you get up, I will reboot. That's just does it by itself. Android and Linux, which are effectively the same operating system, you need to look at the admin settings and make sure it's set to auto update. Now, what I said about Juniper firewalls and Cisco products and Fortinet products and remote management products and file transfer products and all these things that have been going vulnerable, if this is announced and you have one of those products, drop what you are doing. This is an incident. It is now a race between you and the bad guys, and they will find you. If you drag your feet, they're going to find you. Get your stuff patched as quickly as possible. Okay, that was how we break into networks, one way. This is a compromised website. Okay, read this for me. Okay, this was a log message in a web server at Seattle Public Libraries. And the reason we went over and found this is because we were getting phone calls saying, hey, I went to the library, looked up my local library branch, now my computer's all hosed up. So we went over there, started digging around, we found this in the log file. All right, well, if you look at this, you see that there are no characters between 0 and F. This is hexadecimal encoded. So it's easy enough to hexadecimal decode it and find out what it really says. They obfuscated what went into the log message. So here we go. These are structured query language commands. And you see the little part in red right there? That means while you're looking up your local library branch, you're getting a little present on the side from China that you don't know anything about. How does this happen? Well, when you interact with a web application, the only way you can do that is through form fields. You type stuff into a box. And if it's a well-formed, mature application, it will take what you type and go, wait a minute, I'm going to take a look at this. Anything weird in here? Does it look like any known attack pattern? Okay, go ahead, database, give them what they want. If it is not a mature application that uses something called server-side input validation, you can type direct structured query language commands directly into that form field, hand it directly to the database, have it barf up its entire contents, or worse, inject something into it. And that's what happened here. This happens thousands of times a day. And if I asked you what kind of sites are the most dangerous for this kind of thing, you would probably not answer church sites. But that's the truth. Why? Because for the most part, they're done by amateurs. They're volunteers, and they don't know about server-side input validation and some of the other controls and some of the practices that you use when you develop a web application. All right, so it's easy enough to trip over something like this on the internet because it happens so many times a day. How do you avoid this? Don't hit links that come in with no context from places you don't know that you didn't expect. When you get a link out of the blue, don't just go, I'll check that out, because you're going to run over something like this. Here's what's going on in the background if you hit something like that. Here's a couple of victims here on the left. They went to a legit site, the 31.11s, and were immediately reflected back, redirected to these 6 sites there that are trying to push malware. All right. Who knew Macedonia was a bad place? I didn't know that. But so this is redirection, classic redirection, happening in the background all the time when you run over one of these sites. All right. Number 3, and this is the biggie, credential theft and abuse. So if you look at that graph on the right, it's a little older, data still holds. This is from Microsoft, and you see the rise in phishing sites that are identified on the internet. Okay, what's a phishing site? Well, it's a site that's made to look like a Office 365 login page or a SharePoint login page or a Box.com login page or whatever. Note the corresponding drop in sites that push malware on you. Why is this? Because they know one of the easiest ways to get into a network is to get somebody to give up a password. The control that will reliably fail is the one between the ears, and gullibility has consequences. When something asks you for a password and you did not expect it, stop what you are doing. Look very carefully at the information in front of you. Ask a question if you need to, and you're probably just going to delete and move on. This problem is not going away. It is somewhat being superseded by all of this vulnerability exploit going on. But there's a lot of phishing going on as well. And we'll show you some examples of this, including phishing with QR codes, which is becoming very prevalent as well. Credential stuffing, okay, what is that? First of all, don't share passwords, because if you share passwords and some database of passwords gets exploited and taken away, like the Yahoo database of passwords did right when they were going through an acquisition, which did not help their valuation, they can look in there and find your account. And then if they find another account that is yours and they take that password and try it with that account, it might work because you shared passwords. That's one bad thing. Another bad thing is we use that database of Yahoo passwords, and I'll try every one of those against your account, and there are a billion of them. By the time I get to number 700, I'm going to get a hit. Why? Because although there are an infinite number of passwords and passphrases that you can concoct for yourself, there's a top 100 that a lot of people use. Somebody watching this right now uses a password of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 somewhere, guaranteed. All right. That is a self-inflicted wound.
Mike, I changed all of mine to fall 2023. Does that work?
Only till December 21st.
Good. Great. Thanks.
Okay. So there's a lot of this going on. These credential stuffing attacks. You can also do this with every user at a business. I have a billion passwords and I take password number 1 and I try it for every user. Nope, didn't work. Password number 2, try it for every user. Didn't work. Again, by the time I get, up into the thousands, I'm going to get a hit. And the benefit to the attacker is that that's a low and slow attack. Nobody gets 3 password failures in 5 minutes and gets locked out and calls the help desk. Okay? People aren't looking. This is going on all the time. And here's proof. This is my account being credential stuffed right here. So you can see that this is coming from Kuwait and Moscow and China and India. And I had a password failure every 20 seconds for a week. Why? Because Jake and I talk about what's going on with China cybering everybody in the world, and they don't like that. So, you're probably not on that radar, but this is what this looks like. This is credential stuffing. All right, let's look at some bait, because there's lots of examples of bait. First of all, let's talk about the things about you, I, Jake, everybody that help these people. We have these cognitive biases, okay? So if something is offering you a free trial or is a limited time offer or something like that, it gets your attention. Something that's in the news or something that ramps up anxiety, like a pandemic, for example, is likely to get you to act on something that you were sent. Recent events, what's in the news? Even more is the authority bias. Somebody who is in authority in your organization asking you to perform an action, you're more likely to do it, less likely to look at all the indicators on the message to say, hey, this is somebody trying to do something bad. And look at that statistic. Over 90% of cyber attacks begin with a phishing email. I don't know that that is still true, because this really is changing to a lot more vulnerability exploit, but this has not gone away. Phishing is not going away. Microsoft will never tell you this. Microsoft does not tell you things. Microsoft tells administrators things about this. And if you look at these messages, every one of these comes from a return address that is not Microsoft. That means either these other organizations were compromised and somebody's sending email from there, or these organizations don't know how to set up what are called DNS DMARC records and others that prevent their email domain from being spoofed, from being faked, right? If you don't set your DNS records up right, I can send email as you and nobody will stop it. So again, mailbox 100% full? No, Microsoft's not going to run out of space, and your email box is not going to be 100% full. You're not going to run out of disk space. You are not going to get forced to change your password. You're not going to get a message to say, hey, your current password is about to expire. Your administrators will do that. Microsoft doesn't come to you to do that. And if you get something that comes from Microsoft and it says something like, hello, user, Microsoft knows your name. They would use your name, your account name, right, to prove that they are who they are. Right? So for the most part, these things have pieces in them that you can dissect, and you can tell that these are fake. So again, the return address, that one called onmicrosoft.com, anything from onmicrosoft.com is suspect. That's a domain that they use for people to load stuff up in there, and basically you do criming. I'm not even sure what it's for. Dear customer, hey, Microsoft knows you. They know your name. They own Active Directory Universe. Urgency, right? Invoice due now. Anything having to do with finance, especially if there is some urgency associated with it, is not to be trusted. And again, you can hover over links that are embedded in these things, and you can see where they go, and you go, that's not Microsoft, and I'm not going to hit that link. Most of all, something like this comes in and you did not expect it. You need to ask a question. Something like this comes in and you are unsure of the veracity. There may be a place where you can send it to your help desk and say, please check this out for me, or talk to your security people and say, is this real? Don't just believe things like this at face value. A QR code is a uniform resource locator, a URL. And more of these are showing up because, the idea is you can't even see where this thing goes. And so you're likely to investigate it. If this comes in and it doesn't have any context with it, and it looks like it came from Microsoft, and Microsoft doesn't say these kinds of things to you, ask a question, right? Turn this into somebody. Don't scan this with your phone. You could end up losing your bank account from doing that. Very simply. No, you don't get free stuff for your opinion. You do not. These are all over the place. QVC, Starbucks, here's, Craftsman tool cabinet, just answer and win. No, that's not going to happen. All right. T-Mobile, one of the, favored companies to spoof and things like this. Limited supply, 9 rewards remaining. That's the urgency thing, right? That's gonna try and get you to act, right? Don't bite. Do not bite. Hey, look at this. CVS will give me $350 to $450 for 20 to 30 minutes of work. Hook me up. No, delete and move on. Came in with no context. Or sorry, it came in from someplace you don't know. You didn't expect it. It's just not a credible offer, right? Remember, the internet is trying to steal from you. It is. Regard things with suspicion. In fact, treat it like you do like your phone. When you get a phone number, when you get a phone call and you don't recognize the number, I just don't answer it. If it's important, it'll go to voicemail. If it's somebody I know, they'll text me. Okay? Don't just answer the phone. So don't just bite on every message you get. Hey, the product you don't even know you own has expired. Well, you may own this, but there's lots of things out here like this that are trying to fool really a lot of parents and grandparents into paying for something that they don't even own. And so check this out. Maybe you own Norton antivirus. You probably do not. When these things show up and somebody takes this seriously and you go to renew now, you're going to give them a credit card number and then they're going to pummel that credit card. So if you get something like this, check it out. Do we really own this product? What's the expiration date on this? Is there a number we can call, not included in this email, where I can verify this? Okay, a lot of this is going around and fake job offers. And we're finding that other countries, nation states, are using this technique quite a bit. So here's a fake job offer from LinkedIn. And it comes from gburke@ionvillage.com, which is not LinkedIn. So this is pretty easy to see that this is fake. All right. So you're going down here, you go, oh, I'm going to hover over this link. They're trying to get me to get the LinkedIn app, and there's links on the page, and every link on the page goes to the same URL, and it's a dental office. So you're thinking to yourself, ha, 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 this one didn't fool me. I see this is going to a dental office. Take the next step and plug it into something called virustotal.com, which is a service that's run by Google. And you can verify for yourself exactly how bad that link is. This is a fabulous service. Everyone can use it. And in fact, the United States Department of Defense uses this. How do they use it? When they find a piece of malware and they can attribute it to the Russians, the Chinese, whoever, they'll plug it into VirusTotal, not so much to verify that it's malware, but to put it on the radar of every antivirus vendor so that they will create a detection signature for it. Because everything that goes into here is shared with all the antivirus vendors. And so when something new comes in and they can detect, hey, this is badness, everybody knows about it. That's good. That protects everybody else. Here's Carlota, senior consultant at Critical Insight. No, Carlota never has worked at Critical Insight. This is a completely fake character. Why is this showing up on LinkedIn? More than likely, this is to generate a trust relationship between Carlota and our customers so that she can at one point say, we've changed our bank account. From now on, customer, when you're paying us, Critical Insight, here's the new bank account number. Please don't get fooled by people like this. And they're all over the place. So here's a couple other. They are coming after me. And there are, you can see the headline there, North Korean hackers use polished LinkedIn profiles to target security researchers. Well, I am not a security researcher, but here's a couple of these personas that immediately are trying to get me on the phone. Don't bite on this stuff. These are, in fact, what I did for both of these was I sent them this particular article. And I said, interesting article, don't you think? And then they both went away. Oh, lots of fake receipts going around. This happened a lot when we were in the middle of the pandemic and everybody was buying Pelotons and other, exercise equipment. You would get something that said, hey, this is we're just verifying this is the invoice for your Peloton. Here's what you paid for it. Okay. They don't do that. They don't send you something after the fact and go, well, first of all, they don't say, dear user, because they know your name. They know your username at PayPal. Now, what they want you to do here, they want you to call that phone number at the bottom. This is not for you to respond in a message, they want you to call the phone number, and they're going to go, okay, well, to reverse that transaction, you're going to have to give us your credit card number. Don't get fooled by this. Do not get fooled. You can see there is a spelling mistake up there. Thank you. Thank you, purchasing wits us. All right. So it's a little easy to suss out on that basis, but remember the tactic. You're getting a fake receipt. There's a phone number. They want you to call that phone number. Don't do it. Now, again, the anxiety angle here. So we knew when the applications came out for your phone that would notify you if your phone has been in proximity with another phone that's owned by a person that's tested positive. All right, we're kind of all over that. But we knew that was going to get gamed, and here it is getting gamed. So this came in over a text message, not over the app. So you immediately know that this is fake. But it's upping your anxiety. Someone who came in contact with you tested positive or has shown symptoms. Click here. Don't click here. The site you land on is either straight up bad guy site or it's a legit site that's been injected, and you're going to get the little present from the side. When you get something like this and it's from someone you don't know and you didn't expect it, treat it as fake. Okay, all right, dear Facebook user, all right, that's just a blinking red light right there. Now, I have now dumped every social media service I ever was a part of. And last week was Twitter. I dumped it for good. And call it X if you want, I don't care. But I dumped Facebook a long time ago. I am not having it with creepy tracking. Dear Facebook user, Facebook's supposed to know your damn name. That's why they're Facebook. Something like this should just scream to you that this is fake. If you hit that update button, it's going to ask you for your password, even though you may already be logged into Facebook and there would be no reason to ask you for a password. When something like that happens, stop what you're doing, look at all the information in front of you, remember the things that we said today, ask a question if you need to, and you're probably just going to delete, move on, and forget it. Kelly Bannon is a friend of mine. And Kelly Bannon's email address is not kelly.b@polychrome.lk, because I know that Kelly lives in Simi Valley, California, and not Sri Lanka. And .lk is the top level domain for Sri Lanka. All right. When I say links that come in with no context, this is a link that came in with no context. Michael, link. Kelly, when you get something like this, why would you click on this? Right? Especially after hearing all of this. Don't click on things like that. Links with no context are dangerous. Okay, let's talk about phones. SIM swapping. We'll spend a little time on this because right now there is a gang, and they are composed of a lot of teenagers and 20-somethings that have decided it's so easy to get into cybercrime because the criminal gangs in Eastern Europe and Russia have developed all these tools, and we can join an affiliate program, or we can use ransomware as a service, and we can do this. Well, one of the things they're doing is they're SIM swapping. Why do they SIM swap? First of all, what is that? So SIM swapping is this. If I can call your telecom provider, and it's generally not the AT&Ts and Verizons of the world, it's the smaller ones, the Crickets and things like that. And if I can convince somebody at that help desk, right, that support desk, that I'm you, and I say, look, I was going across Puget Sound on a ferry, and I was taking a picture of Mount Rainier. I dropped my phone, and an orca ate my phone. So here's my new phone, and I would like you to connect my old phone number to this phone. If you can fool them into doing that, that's called a SIM swap. That person is now holding your phone. And they can do the following. They can go to your Gmail account or your PayPal account, and they can force a password change. And it'll go, okay, you want to change your password? Type the code that came in on your phone. They're holding your phone now. They have your phone. It's that simple. And they're using this a lot to steal cryptocurrency out of crypto wallets, because that also is connected to your phone. So what's the take-home message here? If your phone stops working, you need to call your provider and say the following: have any changes recently been made to my account? And if so, they need to terminate everything right then and there to stem the losses. Smishing. So SMS, short message service, means a text message. So here's a text message that came in. You won $5,000. Please reply with your bank information so we can deposit the money. And if you do, we can't help you. That's a self-inflicted wound. I'm sorry. American Hospital Association is warning about deepfakes and how voices can be synthesized that sound very realistic. And again, the authority bias. You hear your CEO's voice asking you to do something, you're likely to do it. And today, something like that needs to be verified. If you get a request from somebody, sounds like somebody in authority, verify the request, especially if it has something to do with money. Verify that request. Social engineering. Well, social engineering takes a few forms. It's really trying to fool people into believing something that's not true. And this is generally done over the telephone. And if you combine that with the deep fake voice stuff, mom, these bad men have me, that's an actual headline. Somebody cloned her daughter's voice and used it to extort in a fake kidnapping. And this is starting to show up all over the place. These deepfakes are showing up in political ads and things like this. So pretty soon we're going to be neck deep in these, and you need to really get your resistance up. Even if it sounds like someone you need to verify things if you're being asked to do something. So don't take caller's word at face value, verify it. If someone gives you a URL to type in over the phone, don't do it. We are a company that does fundamentally two things. We kick bad guys out of computer networks and we break into computer networks. And there's a whole lot more to it than that. But as a company that breaks into computer networks, we know that if we're having any problem doing that, we can call the help desk and fake to be an employee and say we're having a problem and say, look, I'm going to give you a URL. Go to this URL. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. And if they do it, we gotcha. That's simple. Apps. The apps are crazy. So apps track you. If you don't know, many apps track you. Nobody reads the terms of service. Nobody reads the privacy policies, things like that. And it will say straight up, we're going to take your data. We're going to sell it. What they do is they sell it to brokers. Those brokers will sell it to anybody who pays for it. This has been taken up by Congress recently because Congress found out that we could buy data from brokers to track members of Congress. They didn't want to have anything to do with it until then. What do apps do? They can also hit ad networks in the background so that somebody's getting paid for a lot of ad access. You're paying for all the transmission. They can download malware themselves. You use an app that is a game, for example, and it's actually a functional game. In the background, it downloads malware and it starts to surveil your keystrokes so that if you log in, you're doing your banking or something like that, they'll get your bank password. If you're going to be an app downloader, find out how long it's been in the store, how many people have downloaded, how is it rated, how many people have rated it, because a 5-star rating from 3 people is statistical noise. It doesn't mean anything. Check them out. Google and see if there have been any reports of an app, being used for nefarious purposes. These are removed from the app stores every day. Removable media. So if you have a high schooler at home who uses a USB stick to transport things to and from school, don't use that USB stick. Just don't. School networks are really polluted. We know because we monitor school networks, and the things we see we can't even explain here. Again, being a company that breaks into computer networks, we know if we're having some trouble breaking in, all we got to do is throw some USB sticks in bathrooms and parking lots and wait. Some good Samaritan is going to pick one up, jack it into a computer, the beacon goes off, and we gotcha. We're in. That's simple. And I think there have, to Jake's earlier point, there's actually been some folks who came to this awareness training who got a hold of us later and said, we found a USB stick in a bathroom, and instead of going and check it out, I gave it to IT and they found it was full of malware, right? This is the real deal. Also, when you go to conferences and vendors have swag, and some of that swag is USB stuff, that is bought so cheaply from manufacturers in China. It's full of stuff. There are 90 something, I think it's more than 100 companies now that the federal government is prohibited from doing business with in China because their technology has surveillance capabilities built into it. So picking up that USB stick at a conference could compromise your entire computer network. You could lose your intellectual property because that's what they do a lot. They steal intellectual property. Also, The FBI warned recently about something called juice jacking. So when you see that charging station at the airport and you want to USB plug in and charge up your phone before you get on the flight, you have no idea what's on the other side of that USB port. That stuff comes from places we don't know. It's best not to trust it. It's always best to use a wall adapter for charging, and it's always best to use a single USB stick if you need to have removable media and transport things around. I had a single stick that I used until Jake borrowed it, and I said, it's now yours because I've lost chain of custody and I can't trust it anymore.
I gave it to this guy with a heavy Russian accent, and he gave it back to me.
Is potato. Okay, miscellaneous stuff. This is some of my favorite stuff, actually. So you're seeing ads for this everywhere, this Temu. Now, don't use it. Just don't. And if you do use it, don't put their app on your phone. Do not install their app. This is a company that's got a parent company in China, PDD. Their business model is known to not work, and they believe that they're monetizing this by collecting and selling data on everybody that engages with this company. They're selling their stuff so cheap because it comes direct from manufacturer to you, no middlemen. It's still abnormally cheap. And there's a reason for that, is because they're collecting information. And remember, China has an immense amount of computing power that they throw at things. They have facial recognition all across the country. You walk into a restaurant, they immediately know your social score. That's an impressive amount of computing power. And if they bring that to bear on all of the stolen information about US citizens, there are really bad things that they can do with that, especially coming up to an election. Look at this. This is an article that did a deep dive into this Temu app that they're trying to push onto your phone very hard. They're always, always, always trying to get you to take the app. Our experts identified a stack of software functions that are completely inappropriate to and dangerous in this type of software. Temu uses them all. The advance fees scam. So everybody knows the Nigerian prince, right? This can take a lot of forms. Here's somebody that wants to engage in a profit-oriented investment in your country. All right. So I want to invest in your country, and I got a bunch of money, and you're going to help me do it, and I'll give you some of that money. Or I'm a soldier in Syria, and I have this barrel of money we're trying to get out of here. If you help me, I'll give you some of it. Or I am moving a shipment of gold from Thailand to China, and I need your expertise in helping with the logistics. I'll pay you for that. I am a widow, and I'm trying to give away my fortune before I die, and I need you to help me, and I'll give you some of that. Every one of these ends up the same way. If you engage with these folks, they're going to start asking you for money, and it will never stop. They will keep, I need to pay a bribe. I need to go to the other side of the country for a meeting. I need to file paperwork, and here's what it costs. And the reasons just never stop. People get sucked into this for years. I know people that have been sucked into this for years. And it's very hard for them to pull away from this, because in order to do so, you have to get over that psychological hurdle of saying, I'm a dumbass. I was fooled the whole time. And people just are really unwilling to do that. Okay. It's an advance fee scam. And again, it takes a lot of forms. Lately, Postal Service has been on the radar as, you know, being the subject of advanced fee scams. And so here's one I got that actually had this identification badge there for realism, right? Don't get fooled by something this dumb, right? And look what it says from US Postal Service. Okay, so it's like from this gmail.com address, all right? But it says to undisclosed recipients. What does that mean? It means everybody's on the BCC list. It's not to you. It's to thousands of people. And occasionally they make a mistake and they don't BCC everybody. And that generates a lot of fun when you start, replying all. So don't be fooled by stuff like this, right? Undisclosed recipients, you on the BCC list, big warning sign, right? Trying to give you money, big warning sign. Don't be fooled. And now generative AI is making these things better and better. So here's an email message I got from Ron Conway, who is a billionaire. And I've laundered some of this stuff out, but there were links in there to Forbes articles about Ron Conway, who's a philanthropist, and he's given away his fortune, right? It's a long letter, but here's the money quote in red. The purpose of this long, boring letter: going forward, I decided my philanthropy will be more direct. I've directed $500 million towards this cause, and I'm contacting you to give you money. Now, Ron doesn't know your name. Ron will ask you to reply and identify yourself. Well, if he picked you out of the herd to get the money, he should know your name, right? But forget that. The tactic. I want to give you money out of the blue. It went to undisclosed recipients. Okay. If you reply, because they want you to engage, right? They want you to send them email back, and it goes to a different address than the one it appeared to come in from. That's called a reply to address. And when you reply and it goes to a different address, that's also a warning sign. But mainly it's the tactic. Now, as AI starts to generate better and better looking messaging, it's going to be easier to fool people unless you have the radar and you remember these tactics. YouTube comment scams. Okay, so I am not a musician. I am a drummer. That means I hang around with musicians. But this guy, Rick Beato, runs a really great channel on YouTube. And he does things like, what makes this song great, and 20 greatest guitar intros, and 50 greatest drum fills, whatever. So after a video, someone will make a comment, and then Rick Beato will reply to that comment and say, I've identified you randomly to get a prize. Let's go to this other communication channel and talk about it. And they're going to talk you out of a credit card, or they're going to push malware on you, or it starts an advanced fee scam or something like that. Be aware, this is going around YouTube a lot. It's not just YouTube, it's anywhere where there is content published and you're allowed to comment on this. So beware if the publisher of the content contacts you directly after you comment. The computer support scam. Okay, so everybody knows about this one, right? So you hit a site that was injected, and your little present from the side was this pop-up saying, oh no, all these threats have been detected on your computer. I got a call the other day from a guy, a building manager down the street, telling me that he actually called the number and engaged and let someone take over his computer and run all the fake tools, which is what they're going to do. And then they're going to say, oh, your support contract has lapsed. Would you like to buy another one? Got a credit card? And they're just collecting credit card information. And the interesting thing is that the people that are running this, generally in a call center in India, think they're actually doing something good for the world. And I know this because once we engaged with them, actually it was an intern of mine at the city of Seattle, and we went round and round with somebody, and the person on the other end who had taken over the computer and was moving the mouse around things saw that we had a packet sniffer running down in the tray and was trying to disable the packet sniffer while my intern was fighting for the mouse. And finally we got tired of this, so I said, okay, this thing's over. And my intern called him a bastard and unplugged the network wire. 5 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was the supervisor calling to complain about our language. Okay, so these people think they're doing a real thing. Don't be fooled by this. If this happens, all you do is close the tab. That's it. It won't come back. Comes back randomly. You can go back to the same site and it won't come up. A new variant of this makes this message pop up out of your tray like a real Microsoft message. In order to get rid of that, all you got to do is clear the cache in your browser. That's it. Right? These are fairly primitive, but they look threatening, and a lot of people get fooled by this, and a lot of people give up their credit cards, and then bad things happen. Secret shopper. Okay, so this is, be our agent, be our secret shopper. There's a lot of legit secret shopper stuff. This was not one of them, and I know this wasn't one of them because I engaged and I said, okay, let's do this, and they send you a check. Here's the check. The check is going to be right around for $2,000. Why? Because they figure there's probably $2,000 in someone's checking account. They're going to say, okay, take this, deposit it in your bank. Wait until your bank says it's okay. The money shows up in your bank. And then we want you to do three things. Number one, we want you to go to this gym and get a workout. And then we want you to write a report. How clean was it? How available was equipment? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then we want you to go out to dinner at this restaurant. We want you to write a report on how good the service was, the quality of the food, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then we want you to test Western Union money transfer for us. So here's an address that we want you to transfer the rest of the money to. Keep $400 for yourself, whatever you didn't spend on the gym and the dinner, and write a report on what you think of Western Union service. And then about 6 days later, your bank's going to get a hold of you and they're going to say, you know, that was a fake check. It's a real routing number. So we sent it off to the bank, but the bank came back a week later and said, no such account, or this is a forgery. And it's obviously a forgery. You can see it. So look at the upper left, Portland, Oregon. Top center, Us Bank Corp, not US Bank Corp. All right. Pay to the order of me, Seattle, Washington. All right. So there's signs on here that tell you this is a fake check. Now, problematically, a lot of this is money mule work, and what they're trying to do is launder money. And if you got caught up in some kind of money mule operation where you're moving money for criminals and you get caught, they're not going to care that you didn't know. You're still guilty and you're still going to go to jail. So don't get pulled into something like this. All right, so do's and don'ts, because you know those had to come, right? All right, how do we avoid this stuff? Don't click on links that show up out of the blue, even if it looks like it came from a friend. Look at that return address every time. Look at the telltale signs on messaging that tell you this did not come from who it says it came from. Fake apps, yeah, they track you. They surveil your keystrokes. They download their own malware. It's bad stuff. Look them up. I have maybe 3 apps on my phone, and that's it. I just came back from a conference where they're always trying to get you to put this conference app on the phone. And I got up in front, I'm talking to this conference, I show them my bio, and I said, now looking at that bio, you're probably thinking, I'm the only dude in this room that didn't download that app. And they're right. I am the only guy in the room that didn't do that, because I won't. The bait. Remember all of these tactics. And remember, it's coming from everywhere. It's text messages, it's phone calls, it's social media, it's email, it's any way they can get to you. The fraudsters are out in force. Yes, it's too good to be true. No, you're not going to get paid for doing hardly any work. No, you're not going to get a free toolbox for your opinion. Patch your vulnerabilities. If you have a little orange dot down there in the right-hand lower tray, it's time to reboot. You need to get that done and activate those patches. Now, that last bullet point there is extremely important. Personal use is best conducted on a personal device. If you're working in a hospital or if you're in local government, you run those services that keep us alive, Facebook, Gmail, live here, not on the work computer. That is a real easy way to avoid taking down an entire organization because you happen to trip over a bad website because you got a link in email that looked like it came from Kelly Bannon, who is not in Sri Lanka. Don't circumvent security controls. When you go and you see the big red Microsoft page that says, we don't think you should go past this, the thing on the other side of this is no good, don't be curious. And in fact, if you get a phishing message and you know it's a phishing message, don't hit the link just so you can check out and go, oh, I just wanted to see how dumb their site looks. Here's what can happen in the background. You hit that link just because you're not going to give up a password. You just want to see what's there. Okay, or maybe it's telling you it's a real Microsoft link, right? Or it looks like it. You hit that link, and that you're interacting with a script. And what that script does, it will pull off the session token, okay, and it will present that to Microsoft. And Microsoft says, okay, so you're got a good session here. I see you're already logged in, but I've never seen this device before. So here's the challenge for the second factor. And they route that back to the user, and the user goes, oh, okay, that's it. You just gave up Teams, SharePoint, Office 365, and any single sign-on operations just like that, and it takes 10 seconds, right? So don't be curious. Don't reuse passwords. Use a password manager. We use Keeper. There's a few of these. For home use, use Bitwarden. It's really good. All your passwords, they'll pull them all out of your web browser, and they'll stick them in this secure, vault, and they'll all come from out of there. And then all you have to do is authenticate to that service one time using your phone, and then it stores all your passwords. Why? Because there are these things called information stealers that are running on compromised websites that if you hit one of them, it's going to pull, and there's a vulnerability in your browser, it will pull all of your stored passwords out, your bank, your work login, everything, just like that. That's why you use a password manager. Don't pick up USB sticks and stick them into stuff. Don't pick up USB sticks at conferences. Use a single USB stick. do use multi-factor authentication. And let me just take a minute and define this because there's a little bit of confusion around this. So let's say you are you live in a rural area and you use a credit union. And when you go to log into your credit union's website, it says, okay, what's your username? What's your password? What was the color of your first car?
Red.
Correct. That is not multi-factor authentication. That is two things you know, your password and the color of your first car, right? That is a shared secret. No, multi-factor authentication is defined as follows. Two or more of something you know, something you have, something you are. That's it. Something you know is your password. Something you have is your phone. And so if they send a code and you type in the code, you just proved you're holding the phone. Last one is something you are. Iris print, thumbprint, palm print, things like that. More than anything, if you see something, say something. Hey, I just got this notice about our office occupancy policy, and I clicked, and then I gave SharePoint my password, and then nothing happened. Or I hit this website, and now the fan on my computer won't turn on. You got to tell somebody about that. And if you tell somebody about that and it's detected quickly, we can put out the grease fire on the stove before the house is engulfed in flames, because that may just be the start of something that gets very broad, like a ransomware attack. All right. So, Jake, with that, back to you.
I prefer if you call me Fred, because
Fred,
Scooby.
with that,
You
darn kid, back to you.
know. Darn kids. All right. It's funny. I was trying to figure out, like, what should Mike be for Halloween? He should be a USB stick at a conference. That is what Mike should be. All right. So up there, you can sign up for, you can tell all your friends, tell all your colleagues, come to the security awareness training. We love having folks here. Even when it's not Halloween, we scare people so that they don't click the link. Mike, next slide.
Didn't we get a note last week from somebody who said, hey, and it was not the MGM we're thinking of, but
Yeah.
and said you saved us. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, you saved us. Yeah. All right. Those are our email addresses if you want to get in touch. My colleague Ginny is going to put a link in the chat. And yes, I recognize the irony of putting a link in the chat. You can put it into Virus Total if you want to check it, but it's SurveyMonkey. We want to know how we did. Believe it or not, this presentation has gotten better. Everybody should also say whose costume was better, Mike or Jake's, when you take the survey. I would really appreciate it. But those are our email addresses up there, michael.hamilton@criticalinsight.com, jake@criticalinsight.com. If your organization needs cybersecurity help, hit us up. We'd love to work with you. And above all, please don't click the link. We are so glad that you are here for security awareness training. And we love you. We love having you here. Yeah, this is good. Don't give money to the bad guys. All right,
Even
bye,
if Timu
everybody.
saves you money,
don't use Timu. Yeah, don't use Timu. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good Halloween.
Yep. Bye.